Hi everybody! This week we're going to be going over my process that I used to develop this mixed media painting of some turkey oak leaves and a piece of wood with some lichen on it. These are some of the found items that I discovered from last week's hike or last video's hike, and if you're interested in that hike you can go back and find that in part 1, which was the previous video. So these are just a few random items that I found on that hike with Sasha, and I brought them back, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my process of how I arranged them and decided what I wanted to do and how I developed the painting. So let's get started. I started with unpacking a few items I found on my hike. Mostly I collected turkey oak leaves because I see them more rarely. I love the unique shape of the leaves and the beautiful warm color they get when they start to decay. I also picked up some sand pine cones, and I started with laying these items out on my paper in various possible layouts. I also picked up a little piece of branch with moss and another piece of branch with lichen. I think lichens are so beautiful in their color, shapes, and especially their biological relationship to their hosts. They're so unique. Of course, Scooby, my cockatiel, had to get on things before I started. So today I decided to use my Strathmore mixed media paper as my painting surface. As for my paints, I chose Rembrandt watercolors, Windsor and Newton gouache, Holbein aqua gouache, and I ended up using only my walnut ink versus my black India ink. Then I proceeded to start working on my layout. I chose which leaves I liked preferably over the other leaves that I had collected, and I just started moving things around until I found the layout that I actually liked. Starting off, here's a quick glimpse of Sashi on the trail, which I thought would be a perfect way to set the tone for today's painting as a reminder of the hike. To me, that's what these items are, a representation of a memory, like an illustrated photograph. I often start these types of drawings off with a light graphite sketch using the sight size method. I placed the leaf next on my surface and attempted to represent it. Although I'm not trying to duplicate the leaf exactly, I'm only trying to capture its essence and the elements of what I find beautiful about the object. I also decided to begin with a light wash using just my walnut ink. I wanted to have almost an old world feel to the drawing or painting. Then I started mixing up my various medias, whether it be gouache or watercolor, and I slowly started building up the layers. When you paint in washes, you have to plan your work differently than what you would do, say, for an oil painting or even a more opaque gouache. Paintings using washes have to be built up in layers for the best effect. Paying attention to values makes the landscape of the object more believable and have dimension. Just so you know, I had to speed up this video, and there is much that has been eliminated to save time. Otherwise, you may get bored or maybe watching for a very long time. In truth, I worked on this longer than I had actually anticipated. I worked on it over a few days. As a result, this video took me longer to make, and I decided to give myself permission to take the extra time to produce a video that showed a more precise method that I use. If this video is helpful or even entertaining, I hope you will push the like button and subscribe to this channel. In addition, you could ring the bell and it'll notify you of any future content that I publish. You can see that the development of my subject is very slow. You can tell I'm paying attention to some important factors here, especially the light and the shadow, as well as the value and the form. This is one of the reasons, other than for demonstration purposes, why my leaf is so close to the drawing. I'm also trying to capture a lot of detail, which is basically a botanical illustration of sorts. That's another reason. There are various reasons that impact your setup. There are many times that it may be important to set up what you are studying more as a still life so that everything is lit properly. But for my purposes, I'm just placing my subject by my drawing for convenience and so that I can capture the light exactly as I see it, hitting just where I need for it to be. One of the most important things I think all artists can do for themselves is continually to work on their drawing skills. Anything else is just stealing from yourself and your own self-improvement. I personally never stopped trying to get better by continuously drawing and attending classes and reading to improve my skills. There will never be a point that you can't improve, basically until the day you die or you become physically unable to draw. I know I have met students before that just want to paint, quote unquote, but unless you're only interested in abstract art, there is nothing that will improve your ability to paint more than improving your drawing skills. That said, I think that developing your ability to be free with paint and practice abstractly is also very beneficial. These skills together can make you the very best version of your artistic self. At the end of the day, whether you're actually an artist that is making money and making a living at doing your artwork, or if you're just doing paintings for yourself, there is nothing more important than drawing, because it's for you either way. You have to be comfortable with your skills, and you don't want to take that opportunity away from yourself. Plus, as an artist, I think that we're usually drawn to wanting to know how to draw, how to discover something and create a representation or an image that looks as closely as possible to honor what is actually grabbing our attention. What is mesmerizing us enough to want to paint? Is it the beauty of a flower? The warmth of the color of these leaves? Or the coolness of the color of the more green leaf? What is it that is grabbing your attention? There's something magical about life, whether it's a person's face, the beauty and the sparkle in their eye, even their personality if you know them. Something about that you want to capture and capturing their image. There's also the mystery of the forest and the landscape. There's so much beauty to be found everywhere we look if we try. And as artists, it's our purpose to represent. depict it to the best of our ability. That's what our gift is. I personally feel very passionate about drawing, but I actually enjoy the act of discovery and improving my drawing skills. I enjoy learning new types of media and concepts that will propel me forward. However, these days when I do bad drawings or my paintings get to ugly stages, I just have to step away. We all have those imposter syndrome moments when we feel like we aren't good enough. We get bogged down on social media looking at other artists that we admire. I try to realize that that's the voice I need to put aside and just either play with my materials, or I just need to do something very abstract and loose, or just take a break and walk away and do something else. Whether it's read a book, go on a walk, or watch a movie. Personally, for me, I think that getting outside is probably the most helpful thing to get me out of my head. I know some people meditate, and I think that just getting outside, especially if it's the kind of weather where I can get out on the trail, that sets me right. Then I can reset and come back to the studio and get back to work. It took me a long time to tell people I was even an artist because I still had to have a full-time job to pay the bills. Luckily, I got over that, and if I hadn't, I never would have taught workshops or classes, which I love. So at a minimum, I hope that you can encourage yourself to get out of your own way and just keep moving forward. Even if you have to do a daily sketchbook practice in a sketchbook that you never plan to share with anyone, so that you have full reign to do anything you like. I think I feel passionate about drawing because I know what I lost because I didn't have a teacher early in life that taught me the foundation of drawing. Unfortunately, my teachers were the result of a generation of free love and blind contour drawings, which I believe wasn't even invented till around the 1940s or 50s. The great masters didn't learn blind contour drawing. They were taught classical drawing skills, like the Charles Bargue method in ateliers, starting at a very young age. Now, to be fair, most of us live a lot longer now, God willing, so don't be discouraged no matter what your age is. I personally like using perspective drawing and using the 2-point and the 1-point perspective method to create basic forms, especially if you're just trying to learn how to draw and how perspective works, especially if you like doing urban sketchbooks, but it's also relevant in the landscape. Let me know if this is something you would like for me to cover moving forward. I have to admit that when I first started this painting, I really didn't have a plan, I only had a vision. Sometimes paintings work out that way. My vision began with capturing my time in the woods and to possibly find a way to honor that. Recently, that's what inspires me the most. Last year, while it was cool outside, was the first time I actually took a camping chair out with me on site and just sat and observed and listened to the sounds of the forest. While I'm building up all these transparent layers of gouache and watercolor, that's at the forefront of my mind. Being out in nature helps me with feelings of anxiety that I can feel from time to time, as I'm sure we all are these days. I try to get into what I call the in-between. That's the place that meditation strives to achieve, the moments of peace in between the chatter of the mind and all its thoughts. We can all be so hard on ourselves, focused on the stories of our lives and the stories of our our family and friends and our jobs. So time away aside from sleep is important, I feel. It certainly is to me. I will say that whenever I start on a new drawing or painting, I can easily feel a bit of stress as I start. I think all artists feel a bit of intimidation of the blank white paper or canvas because you don't really even know what your final product will be. You don't know if your abilities will help you achieve your vision. You know you are simply in an act of discovery with the tools at your disposal. And I guess that is the beauty of moving forward. With the more skills you grow, I think, the better it gets. One thing that helps, though, is toning your paper or canvas quickly. Getting those first strokes down gets you into the act of making. And then I think it's easier to push past that feeling and move forward. At this point in my drawing stage, you can see how I left those initial layers and used them as highlights on the leaves, and I'm adding more darker layers to give the form dimension. It creates an illusion of areas where the leaf rises and falls. Where it rises, it's hit by the light, and where it recedes, it gets darker. You can think about rolling hills and how a setting sun hits the hill on one side and on the other side it doesn't. That's basically what's going on with the leaf. The form rises and falls. Especially as it dries, they tend to get even more rolling and have a lot more dimension. While we all know that the paper is actually flat, our understanding of light, values, and our materials provide us with the skills of illusion at our beck and call as artists. For the areas of the veins on the leaves, I actually used a more opaque white gouache to lie the line down very thickly because I wanted to make sure that it really popped forward. And then I went back and gave it a transparent wash of a brownish yellow tone to give the leaves the pop, but yet still have a yellow tone like the actual leaf had. And I finally actually decided to just go ahead and move past that smaller leaf that I did on this painting to start working on that piece of wood and show you how I did that. It ended up being even more challenging than the leaves were. I would say that wood like that, just a random piece of wood that I picked up, is not something I typically do, but I do love the form of the lichen, and even it rises and falls, and it has some really interesting shapes. And I love all the green, mossy green, sage like type colors, and there is even a little bit of pops of yellow on the actual lichen that's on that little piece of branch. And when I was doing my shadows, I often would just sketch in lightly with my pencil and then go back over it with a watercolor. I did this so I would basically map out where I wanted the shadow to be. And it didn't hinder me in my final product, so I didn't mind using the graphite. So again, this is even something you can do out on your hike if you want. You don't have to bring things back to your studio and set it up. You could actually just take your journal with you, especially if you're carrying something like watercolors or something. You're not doing something elaborate. You can pick up random objects when you're in the field as well, and I've done that. I've done both studies in the field of random objects, fallen things that I found on the forest floor, or I've drawn or painted a tree on my hike in my journal, or even just a distant landscape. So there's lots of options that are available to you. But if you're intimidated by doing it in the field, this is just another option. And of course, you can do this in your actual nature journal and then write notes next to the objects about the memory. And of course, the closer you do it to the time that you actually took the hike, the more fresh all those thoughts will be. I'd love to hear if you nature journal and what your process is, as well as where you live and where you like to hike, in the comments below. If you have anything specific that you'd like for me to focus on in an upcoming video also, let me know your ideas on that as well. If you've made it this far in this video, please let me know in the comments below, even if you just add a smile emoji or maybe a little leaf. And I definitely want to say thank you if you've made it this far. So before I go, I'm going to give you just a few minutes of quiet with the music and me just painting. I can't really tell you that at one point I know that a painting is done. I just get to a point, I guess, where I feel like it's done. There's probably always something you could do to take it a little further. And you also want to make sure that you never go beyond the point of doing too much, overworking a painting. I felt like I certainly worked on this one piece of wood for quite a while, but I finally decided to finish. And once I reached that point, of course, there's always the gratifying part of taking up the tape off of your artwork, like so many of us enjoy. And yeah, I'm calling it done. Well, I hope that if you like this video, that you will like and subscribe. And if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope that you're enjoying fall. But no matter where you are in the world, I wish you joy and that you are all well. Till next time, take care.